You are now listening to the Bullseye Podcast, brought to you by AFI Advisors. Sit back, get comfy, and keep all arms and legs inside the vehicle when in motion. And now, here is Josh, Peter, and Brian.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Bullseye Podcast, brought to you by AFI Advisors. This is Josh Shores, Director of Marketing and Development. I am here with my cohort, Brian Brummett, with a strong T.
With a strong T at the end.
It is
and an E, believe it or not.
It is November 14th, and it's a miserable day outside.
Yeah.
It's just rained and rained and rained. I'm wearing a hat and a hoodie because my body's just not built for this outside weather like this.
I made it about 3 minutes into my day. Walked outside, went to get in my car, stepped in a giant puddle, had to walk back in, change my shoes and my pants.
Wet feet are the worst.
And you know, when you get like the dress shoes wet, like there's no drying them. You give up on them for a few days, and
I got one of my best pairs of shoes wet, and they're like a tan leather.
Yeah.
And it stained them.
Yeah.
Like I can't get them back to normal.
Yeah. I was going to be wearing khakis with the brown shoes and all. No, it's boring old black.
Well, if you're listening to this like normal, nothing's changed. But if you're watching a video of this, we're trying to get a little fancy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it'll work or not. So we're just going to give it a try and see what happens. So there may be a video, there may not. Time will tell. But we wanted to hop on here and get a few things out. We've got a lot on our mind.
Yeah.
There's a lot coming up. There's Thanksgiving coming up. We're through the election.
Through the election.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, that was fun. And then the markets rejoiced once that was over. The markets have gone up considerably since the election was over. And it's not exactly panned out the way I thought it would.
Yeah.
So there's always certain stocks that you feel like or you think should go up with one administration or down with another.
Yeah.
And whereas we knew that things were going to go up once we knew that there was a president that was going to be there, I would have figured companies like United Health would go down. Mm-hmm. Those went up.
Really?
I figured places like Eli Lilly would go up. That went down. So it's interesting watching where the money is ending up, and then watching where it actually is going to end up too, which is interesting.
I know we talk a lot about internally, that obviously, yes, it matters who's president, right? But with the stock market, it kind of keeps trucking along.
Turns out the stock market generally goes up regardless of who's president. Now, if you want to make it really happy, have a president and then have the House and the Senate be the opposite party and nothing can get done. That's always what the market likes the best, just simply because we know the rules aren't going to change.
Yeah. I'm just kind of glad it's over, to be honest with you. I am kind of genuinely surprised, though, because it did seem like one of those elections that was rather lopsided toward the end.
Yeah.
And that kind of caught me off guard because everything I'd heard prior to that was saying this is like the closest race in U.S. history. And then because I go to bed at like 9 o'clock.
I was going to say that we not called the first state when I went to bed.
No, I'm the guy. Listen, anything like that, and I'm even doing that with sports now. Like if there's a 9 o'clock kickoff.
I'm just glad the time changed because the sun's actually down when I go to bed now.
I go to bed hearing about how close the election is, and then I wake up the next morning, and it's like, Lord, the entire map's red.
Yeah,
what happened? I went to bed, and
I wonder if that's polling and the inefficiencies that are in polling, or if it's that media outlets want us to think it's close, or if we walked in knowing that there was going to be a sweep. Who would have watched these programs?
It's definitely the media.
I think it has to be that.
And I don't really buy into like the propaganda of all the fake news, but it's gotten really bad lately.
The propaganda is one thing, but companies saying I make more money when races are close. I'm going to make this one seem closer. That's not propaganda. It's just business. It's just business.
Let's let everyone stress and worry while we just like cash our checks.
Right. Now I wonder if like they know the actual polls and results, and if they're like, do anything with that ahead of time.
I'm sure there's so much going on that we have no clue
that we have no idea about.
And honestly, I don't want to know, because if I did know,
I would be mad.
I would probably be really down on America for a long
just
time.
Humanity.
Just humanity in general. Well, we made it through the election, so let's check that off the list. We did our due diligence by, bringing it up.
Yeah. Bam, done.
Bam, done. So I guess the natural thing that you want to talk about, Brian, is sports.
Yeah, this is your episode.
So let's just dive into that. Peter's not here. He's actually up in Indianapolis. The DB band is at a competition up there, and that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what instrument his son plays?
Trombone?
I want to say that. That's what I was thinking.
Do you want me to call him?
Yeah, let's just go. Peter, we got you on the air.
But we know several people who have kids who are students at DB who are in the DB band program, and that's a whole nother level of commitment.
Did you know how big the DB band program was while you were in Greenville? I was living in Bristol. I did not know.
I did know because at the time when I was in high school, Greenville had a huge band.
Okay.
I think when I was rolling in my freshman year, we had every bit of like 250 band members, which is big.
That is huge.
Yeah.
I went to East. One of the years that we were there, they sang the national anthem. Mm. I'm not even kidding. The band sang the national anthem.
It's not even worth playing.
It's not. Yeah, they didn't even play it. So band wasn't a big part of my upbringing.
I was really fortunate. I'm glad I did it, and it taught me a lot. And it's really cool because I've kind of come full circle, because now I'm playing in that jazz group that I told you about, and one of my former teachers is actually the one instructing it.
People, those are spirit fingers. These are jazz hands.
I don't know. I'm not up to date with my dance moves, but so anyways, Peter's up there watching the DB band, and I did see a couple of pictures. I hope that he takes some pictures and videos, because I'd like to share that with folks, because we have a pretty long-standing partnership with DB, and especially the band program. We did a couple of podcast interviews with some of the students, which was really fun. And it was fun to watch them. They walked in, they were terrified. They were like, what do I say? What do I do? I was like, just calm down.
Yeah.
Be natural. We're just going to ask you some questions.
So you had the same conversation with them you do with me every week?
Correct. Correct. I did. I do want to talk about, we've been talking here in the office the past couple of weeks about behavioral spending, things like that, behavioral economics, things like that. And we do have some fun turkey talk. Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble.
That we'll kind of save toward the end, but I kind of want to jump into the meat and the crux of what we're really wanting to discuss. And I know you gathered up a lot of info that I'd love to talk about.
The hardest part about this podcast is keeping, when you told me you wanted stuff about Thanksgiving also, I was like, how am I going to talk about this for just 30 minutes? So you're going to have to like cut me off at some point.
But I need like a sign, 5 minutes.
Behavioral economics is actually one of the more interesting fields of study in economics, and it's pretty much newer, even though you can kind of trace its lineage back to the 1940s. The 2000s to 2010s actually when it kind of started becoming prevalent, and it's only just now starting to be taught in schools. So when I went to school...
Isn't that crazy?
It is. No, I mean, economics in itself is super young, right?
Yeah.
When you think of fields of study like biology and chemistry, I have no idea who the founders of those are. There's probably a couple cavemen rubbing rocks together or something. I don't know. Like, economics, the founder of modern portfolio theory, which is pretty much governs how we construct portfolios, he died last year.
We talked about
that.
I remember
Harry
that.
Markowitz.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, but he kind of founded what we do. So economics in itself is a very young subject. So it's constantly being added to. You never hear about new laws in physics very often, and when you do, it's huge. Economics is changing all the time. So what is behavioral economics? It's the study of how psychology affects economic decision making and how these decisions differ from traditional economic theory. So it's a field that combines psychology and economics to understand how people behave in the real world. When I was going to school for economics, and you probably did this in business school, they always talked a lot about this is what a rational person would do.
Yes.
This is what a rational person will make this decision. Well, it turns out that there's not a lot of rational people out there, and that's not the best model to go off of. So we started.
I do know, and this is actually kind of cool because we came from the same world but different sides of it. So on the marketing side of things, like we study really deeply into consumer behavior, which matches up a lot with everything that you've got on here. But
so you're thinking about like nudging.
Nudging. Yeah. So we had everything. We decide what is a rational decision, but what can we do to make them do something irrational?
And that's my job's the exact opposite.
Right.
Someone comes in with, and Josh did a lot of work on this, overly optimistic expectations on returns in the stock market.
Yeah.
You've done quite a bit of why people come in and they constantly ask me, hey, what's going to make me $1 million today? What's going to do this? And the answer is always, that's not how it works.
It's not how it works.
That's not how it works. And if someone tells you that's how it works, you need to talk to somebody else.
Give us a call.
Call us.
Go to afiadvisors.com.
But so people will come into us with irrational decisions, and it's our job to nudge them towards being more rational with them and more realistic. So, and we talk about it all the time, but we don't necessarily term things. One of the things, if you've listened to this podcast much at all, you know that Peter loves to talk about the paralysis of choice.
Yes.
He talks about the shampoo aisle. So if you haven't listened to it, it's your wife sends you to the grocery store to buy shampoo. You get on this aisle with an ungodly amount of shampoo on it, and you have no idea what to get. So you have to start narrowing down the options. Do we have it dandruff? Okay, if we do, we need to buy it from this section. Do we have dry hair? Greasy hair, whatever. And you start narrowing it down. The paralysis of choice or choice overload, that's what Peter talks about all the time. And it's our job to take the best decisions, put them in a way that's presentable so you're not paralyzed by the options.
It's a hard word.
It's a hard word.
In its different forms. It's hard to sling it around. So,
I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
We also have things like overconfidence bias, which is something all my college friends that are clients of mine, I'm so sorry I'm calling you out. But overconfidence bias can negatively affect returns by leading people to overestimate their skills and their knowledge. They might cause them to trade too often. You see a lot of that with Bitcoin. I'm going to buy here. They're doing a new round of coin here. Constantly buying or trading, which sometimes causes additional fees. And all of this can negatively affect returns.
I've always wondered, especially over the last, 5 years, because just as technology has kind of pushed everything to the forefront, it's done the same with giving people access to take control of their portfolio in their hands. And I don't know that everybody needs to be doing that.
I can count at least 15 people that I know who have taken money away during good times because they felt like they could do better.
Sure.
Took it, ran their own portfolio, and then something bad happened in the stock market. Think 2008, think COVID, something like that. And then they come back to us with a fraction of the money that they took. And it has to do with overconfidence. I would imagine that if you're watching your portfolio and nothing's moving for an extended period of time, it feels like you could do that at home. You might be able to. I don't know. But the ability to identify your limitations and your inability to predict the future, that's what ends up causing people to do better. Yeah. I had a client that wanted to put all of their money in Tesla. And to be fair, they would have done very, very well. Mm-hmm. With that being said, all it takes is one bad decision from Elon Musk, one bad decision from Tesla, one good decision from one of their competitors, and the entire stock could go down, and that would be their entire portfolio.
Right.
You've got to look at stuff like that.
Thinking of it like that, which is a good way to think of it, any business you're in, one of the golden rules is kind of don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Because the liability is not worth the benefit at the time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
you want to have a theory of what happens, right? Mm. And you want to work towards that theory, but at the same time, you want to kind of hedge against it too.
Diversify
against it. Absolutely. Yeah. Like I've had so many people think that technology was overvalued because it's grown so much over the last few years, but it continues to outperform.
Yeah.
So what you would do is keep technology in your portfolio if you believed it wasn't going to do well, but not as much.
This kind of makes me think about, I just showed you an article that I typed up, and unfortunately I left it on my desk, but I can remember enough about it.
I was going to bring it. You took it from me.
I remember enough about it, but it goes back to this. You know, you have so many people looking for, it's like human nature. People think there's a way to get rich quick.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a scheme of some sort, some kind of a business, like this crazy thing, or even with stocks too. But we talk about this handedly often. You know, it's almost like going to the casino and just like spending some money.
That's what I think that's the perception that people have over investing.
Yep.
And it's similar but different. Mm-hmm. So I like to think about it as a roulette table. If we went up to Bristol right now and went to the roulette table, you'd have 48 red sections, 48 black sections, and 2 green, which means if I bet on black, I have a 48% chance of winning, which means that the longer I play, the likelihood of me winning decreases every time I roll.
Yeah.
So that's gambling. And I want to, as an investor, not be a gambler. I want to be the casino.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're going to have bad days, and you're going to have that winner that just takes all the money on the floor, right? But your average day, you're going to get most of the winnings.
Right.
And if you do that over a long period of time, you're going to do better off, and you're going to be better off, and that's investing. Gambling is over a long period of time, your odds are going down or staying the same. Investing is over time, my odds of winning go up.
Makes me think about, do you remember that podcast we did where I told my gambling story, my casino story? Yeah. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah.
Which I'm not, if anyone knows me, they know that that's not my cup of tea. I value my money too much to gamble it away.
But we would own a casino if we had the resource.
True.
Yeah.
But I remember getting down to like my last, I don't remember, $20, $50, somewhere around there. And I said, forget this. I'm going to the roulette table. And I was like, I'm not going to bet. No, all I'm doing is betting. I'm going to do black or red. Because I was thinking, surely.
Yeah.
I mean, what'd you, 48%, right?
48%. Yeah.
Surely. No. I lost, and I just don't have good luck with that stuff. In fact, I have such bad luck that I encourage people to do the opposite of whatever I would pick. If they ask me who's going to win this game, I'll tell them, and I was like, you better pick the other person.
But see, and if you wanted to have absolutely no fun at the casino, you could have brought me. And I could have been like, you need to just throw all of your money on red on the very first go, because 48% chance is much better than if you play twice.
Yeah. I would just be, anytime I do that, which is very, very, very rare, I'm just giving them a donation.
A non-write-offable donation. Yeah. Going back to this for a minute, I think that behavioral economics is going to be an amazing thing for the field. We are slowly turning economics into a science. And I think that as of right now, we're in the alchemy phases. But it's going to eventually become a science. And we're hopefully going to be able to, over time, get rid of these rocky movements or at least predict when they happen.
Yeah.
And I think behavioral economics, going ahead and stopping the assumption that people are generally rational, was a good first step to becoming more accurate.
I think one of the hardest things to deal with is all of the influence that the world has over people. And this was in the article too, talking about the media influence. And one of the biggest things is, trying to compare your life to someone else. Just because person A has this, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're equipped right now to have this, and that.
Right.
But unfortunately,
It doesn't even mean that they have this, that.
yes, because there's a big difference. There's a huge difference in being wealthy and being in debt and having nice things.
Every time I see like a Ferrari drive by me, I either think that's an insanely rich person or an insanely poor person.
I'm getting to the point now, I just turned 40 and and I've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast that I want a helicopter. I'm very transparent about this. I want a helicopter. And I'm starting to think
that's not going to happen.
It might not be in the cards for me. But I'm also, so here's the irrational human part of me. When you reach a point where you don't care anymore, people will be like, well, I'll buy this helicopter and I'll keep it for 4 or 5 months before they repo it.
Yeah.
But for 4 or 5 months, I'll get to ride around in a helicopter. I'm trying to stay away from that.
We've got them. We're working on getting them help.
I've got a lot of professionals I'm talking to help me.
Midlife crisis, no offense. That's not where I was going with that. But you see a lot of the guys with the midlife crisis running around in those nice sports cars, and it does make you wonder, did they save for that? Or was it, I need to get this now or I'm never going to?
Right.
And no, you're not middle-aged. You've got 50, 60 years ahead of you.
Oh, that's sweet.
80, 90, I don't know.
This body's been
Science is doing some wild
This body's
things.
been through a lot. I don't know. I may be 40, but I probably have the body of like a 60-year-old right now.
But the mind of a 4-year-old, so it's fine.
It makes me wonder, this will be a great question for you. When do you get to that point financially where it's okay to buy the nice thing? How do you instruct, because I know you, and if you all don't know Brian, he's laughing because I think he knows what I'm about to say. And this is great, but you are very tight.
I'm a frugal person.
You are.
Yeah.
To a fault, but that's why you're excellent at what you do. So how do you, being a frugal person, say to someone who's wealthy, who can afford it? Let's say that, who can afford it? You know what? Yeah, I would be okay to splurge. Do you ever get to that point?
I have gotten to that point quite a few times.
Okay.
So I'll have clients, they will get to a level of wealth where they can very comfortably, the money that their money makes will very comfortably take care of them.
Right.
And then, but they're still being very frugal with things.
Sure.
And you're looking at this, let's make up a hypothetical. We have 80-year-old John here, who has $6 million. Mm-hmm. And he spends $2,000 a month because he has always been frugal.
Right.
What's, I always ask people, what's the end game? Is the end game to leave your children a bunch of money? Because if that's the case, he's doing great.
Yeah.
If you don't have the dependents, if you don't have the kids, how much money do you want to have when you die?
Well, then you get to one of those weird, like, psychological battles about. That's when I think people pivot into that. You can't take it with you, right?
You can't take it with you, but
if they have no one to leave money to.
I think it has to do if you're trying to make this decision on your own, you need to think about what money is to you. Mm-hmm. For me, money is safety. Money is the ability if something bad happens, I can take care of myself and my family for this long. Yeah. That's safety to me. If you were to ask my wife what money is, it's freedom. It's her ability to not have to do things that she doesn't want to. It's her ability to say, I can walk away from this job if I need to. Mm-hmm. If money to you is safety, it's very hard to turn around and use that for something other than safety.
Yeah.
But if it's a quality of life thing, you're going to have a lot easier time spending. And the true answer is somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. You don't want to die with all the money because you could have not worked for a large chunk of that and enjoyed your time.
Sure.
So you don't want to,
instead of getting the money,
you need to prioritize what's important to you. And if your money is helping you get that, you need to be saving and doing that. If you've already gotten past that point, you're allowed to spend money on you.
I'm glad you said what you did because I very much am on the same page with you about it being a safety thing for me and I also think it has a lot to do with how people grow up because my family's not incredibly wealthy. Right. I mean, I didn't grow up with a lot. And so now we weren't necessarily like scrounging every week, but that money is a comfort blanket for me in case something happens.
Yeah.
And I know that I can take care of it. And that's kind of how I've approached my money over the last several years is let's huddle it all up.
So if I was talking to you, so if we were trying to make this decision for you, we would add up everything you have set aside for safety. Mm-hmm. And we'd say, does this cover the things we're concerned about? Mm-hmm. If it does, and you're still able to pay your bills, splurge on something.
Do you know my biggest temptation when it comes to money?
Helicopters. We just covered this. Spending it? I don't know.
Aside from helicopters, my biggest temptation would be musical instruments.
Okay.
I just love musical instruments. I love old musical instruments. And it's hard for me to not have a knee-jerk reaction and just grab something, especially, if it's a good price.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you've got a guitar I want, by the way.
I know. I have a nice guitar. I've actually playing it a little bit lately.
So I'm still waiting for you to bring that to me.
I offered to sell Josh a banjo, but he turned me down.
I'm terrible at banjo. I've got a banjo.
We're in that fun part of life where we're trying to clear out parts of our house.
I know. I've got a banjo that I've tried and tried and tried, and I just can't. I think for so many years of playing guitar, I've, conditioned like the movements of my hands and stuff around those 6 strings, and a banjo is a completely different animal. And I just don't have the commitment.
That's what Lacey was saying.
To want to learn it.
So I have one because Lacey wanted it. Yeah. And Lacey can pick up an instrument, and I'd give her 2 weeks before she's good at it.
Yeah.
And, guitar, piano, violin, like anything she picks up, she just gets it in a couple weeks. I think she put like 3 or 4 weeks into the banjo and it didn't come. So
I'm telling you, man, it's a totally different beast. But the people who can play it spend a lot of time doing that. And I'm just not that guy. I'm a drummer. Well, I need to be playing a banjo for.
Speaking of drumsticks, I think we should talk about butterball turkeys. Couldn't help it. I wanted to jump on that one.
What a transition.
Hey, you usually do the transitions. I wanted to give it a shot. I think I did all right.
I'm down for it. I love it. So while you're getting ready to look at that stuff, let's settle this because my son and I were talking about this just the other day. Which one is supreme on Thanksgiving, turkey or ham?
Turkey.
See, Nolan and I like ham.
I like ham, but turkey. Now, if it's turkey or ham and that's it, ham. But if it has like good dressing and good, gravy and all of that, turkey.
I love turkey too, but if you put a gun to my head, I'm going to pick ham every time.
But the reason I would pick turkey is
please don't put a gun to my head. That was
my favorite holiday is Black Friday, because everybody leaves the house and I have all the leftovers to myself for the day.
And you just eat until you're in a food coma.
And, just having a nice turkey sandwich, passing out around like 2 or 3. Yeah, that's what.
It's just a great time to be alive.
I can't do that with ham. It's like I'm just ready when everybody gets home.
What do you got on the bird over there? Let me look at this too.
So Josh wanted me to look up stuff for Thanksgiving about inflation and all this. And I got sucked down a rabbit hole and it didn't end up happening. So I just did a quick search on some of the funny questions that the Butterball Turkey Hotline.
My gosh, I'm reading this right now. And this is exactly why I didn't want to see it, because I want a very natural reaction to this.
Well, first of all, if you have any Butterball Turkey questions or cooking questions, you need to call 1-800-BUTTERBALL or text 844-877-3456. We would much rather you call them up than suffer the embarrassment of us reading this over the...
It says the hotline's more than 50 experts answer over 100,000 questions each season.
Yeah. They even have President Bartlett on West Wing calling them a couple of episodes.
I have to do a timeout real quick. I have never, in my 40 years, ever thought of, I have a turkey question I'm going to call Butterball. So it's
that's
like,
a marketing genius thing, though.
It's just like so unreal to me that there's over 100,000 questions each year.
Yeah.
What are they asking?
Well, I've got one for you. Can I baste my turkey with suntan lotion?
I'm going to look straight at this camera right here. If you were the person who asked if you could do that, shame on you.
Can I poke holes all over my turkey and pour a can of beer over it to keep it moist?
I could see that.
I could see that's not the...
Because people do that with tenderizing stuff like that. Suntan lotion?
The suntan lotion's weird. Can I thaw my turkey in the toilet? I'm sure you could, but do you want to?
Oh, how do I roast my turkey so it gets golden brown tan lines?
I skipped that one.
In the shape of a turkey bikini. That's kind of funny.
That is funny. And
it's weird.
I'd like to think one of the experts helped him out on that one.
They were probably like, no.
Will chainsaw oil affect my roast? It's like, do they eat chainsaw oil?
This is why we have to put warning labels on everything, because people are using chainsaw oil on their turkey and suntan lotion. This one's
my favorite because it's not even a question. My cat started eating my raw turkey.
Okay.
Okay. Like I said, no question. That was a... how can I thaw my turkey on my car luggage rack safely?
I'm done. I'm just gonna wad this up and just throw it at the camera. I'm done. Who are these people?
All I know is if you're going to send a gift to anybody, send it to one of those 50 experts at Butterball Hotline. And tell them we're thinking about them.
That's wild.
It is. I think it's hilarious.
But no jokes. That's why we have to put so many warning labels on stuff, because this stuff is common sense to us, but I believe that these questions
100%.
Happen.
I'm just hoping that this is, on a personal note, I'm hoping that this is the last year we talk about the holidays as being post-COVID.
How long does it take? How far removed do we have to get to be out of that?
This is expected to be most Americans' biggest holiday season since COVID.
Okay.
Where your average Thanksgiving meal is going to have 9 people, which is up from 7 the year before, and it's falling about in line with 2019.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that next year it's going to be about the same, and it's just going to be back to...
So we're like this close from being like
so
back
close
to normal, kind of.
That's what I was seeing.
Yeah.
On that front, on how many people are getting together and stuff.
Interesting.
So hopefully this is the last year we can say post-COVID.
That was wild, and that's why I love having you do this, because I don't know that I would have looked that stuff up. You come up with the craziest stuff, and by goodness, it's always true. And I don't know whether to be impressed or be
You told me to
worried
come
about
up with
society.
something, and I thought, I watched West Wing the other day, and he called the Butterball hotline. Wonder what they ask. I like being professionally curious about things.
Well, this was a fun way to wrap
this was
it up.
fun.
Well, we appreciate you guys hanging in there with us.
Yep.
This was fun. If you have any questions, please reach out, email us, look us up on all of our social channels. We try to be pretty active on there. If you want to be on our newsletter, more than happy to add you. We send out some of these tidbits and some things that we think are beneficial for clients. So we would love to have you involved with that. But until then, Brian, pound it. Yeah. You get to do stuff like that. We're on video. We do it all the time, but people can't see it.
I know.
And we have to act a little more presentable because we're on, video now, but it's all good. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bullseye Podcast. Do you want to sponsor the show or maybe even be a guest? Contact us at connect@afiadvisors.com to get the conversation started. Thank you for all of the continued support.